Welcome back to Grief Inspired. If you don't know me, my name is Catherine McNulty, and I want to help you through the process of grief. Now today, I want to take a moment and I want to answer another question. I get lots of questions on my YouTube videos, and there are some questions that stab me in the heart that I feel very compelled to answer. And this is one of them. So I can't wait to share this question from Lahart, 1957, about losing her mom. Welcome back. So I have this question from Lahart, 1957. Thank you so much for commenting on my YouTube videos here, for really sharing your heart, because I know sometimes it can take a lot to put ourselves out there, especially when it's something that's so personal as our grief. So thank you for being brave. I love brave people. I think it requires bravery to really lean into grief and heal. And so I want to answer this question for you. She said that she lost her mom recently. She says, how do you deal with life when nothing matters anymore? I feel useless, worthless, and see no direction in life. I see no happiness and feel miserable. Sounds like she also has siblings, because she says, I wish I was like my sibling who seem to just be avoiding it as their way of dealing with grief. This is such a good question. How do you deal with life when nothing matters anymore? So do you know that feeling? Do you know the feeling of losing someone and feeling like life doesn't really matter anymore? I know that feeling well. Time when I came home from the hospital without my baby, I opened the front door back into my house. I hadn't been in my house in over 6 weeks because I was at the NICU, living there, worrying whether or not my son was going to die. He ultimately did. And when I got home and opened the front door and stepped inside, I basically collapsed and fell to the floor. And the reason why I collapsed and fell to the floor was because everything that I had created, everything about my life, the things that used to be so important to me, no longer mattered. And I would have very easily given them all up to have my son back with me. How do you deal with life when nothing matters anymore? Well, the first thing is you realize that you have to make the choice to deal with life. And the fact that you've asked this question on my YouTube channel tells me that you did. And so that is the first step. Feeling useless, worthless, and seeing no direction. I get it. Life can change in a minute. The things that were important to you can no longer seem that important. Feeling like if you were a caregiver, possibly this person may have been a caregiver for their mother, feeling like you don't have anything that's really important to you, because that was the one thing that was really important to you. So if you lose that, and that can leave you in a space where you don't know what direction to go into in your life. Combine all of that with being deep in grief because of your loss. Yes, of course you feel miserable. You don't have to see happiness. What I want for you is to believe me, believe the people who are here, believe the clients that have worked with me, who fundamentally believe that yes, you can be happy again. You can have a deep and terrible loss, and yes, you can feel happy again. Now, you might not be able to see that right now, and that's okay, especially if you're early in grief. What I want you to do is hold on to the belief, use my belief, and give yourself hope that you can get through this. And so how do you deal with it? You have to start looking at your life again. You have to decide what is really important now. So the first thing is to understand grief and understand what you're going through. And then the next step is looking at your life and saying, why do I do the things that I do? Why do I live where I live? Why do I have the job that I have? Why do I hang out with the people that I do? Why do I spend my time watching this on TV, reading this book, going to these places? It's an evaluation of everything about your life. It can seem very overwhelming. We do it in my course. I suggest you start looking at it one step at a time. But what will happen when you ask the question, how do I deal with this? The answer is to start looking at these things. Give yourself some grace. Know that it's going to take time. And give yourself time while you're starting to evaluate these things and realize that your life will unfold. It's going to be different. Everything's going to be new for you, right? If you were caring for your mother, if you were living with her, she's suddenly not there. If you were spending lots of time taking care of her, now maybe you have all this free time. Maybe everything that was important to you and everything that your life revolved around before had to do with your mother, and having her not there, yeah, that's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And so, you know, it's reminding me of, you know, the little Rudolph video that we watch at Christmas time, or at least we did, right? Where they say, how do you start? Well, you put one foot in front of the other. And what I mean by that is you just get started. And you start paying attention to the things in your life. When you're doing things, do I like what I'm doing? When you're hanging out with people, do I like these people? You can create change. You can find purpose for your life. And it might be a different purpose than what you had before. But that doesn't mean that you can't find something else. If you look within, if you've ever sent me an email at my griefinspired@gmail.com, every email on the bottom of it has a quote that says the answers to your life are within you, right? So it's about going within, not looking necessarily externally for all the answers, because most of the time you can find some answers externally, but I think the really deep, important ones that you're asking about, like the life purpose, meaning, fulfillment, big stuff, that's all within. You can't look to other people for that. You can use other people and conversations to help you understand. You can ask questions of them, but inevitably it's looking into your own self and getting deep within and figuring out who you are. That's a big part of what we do in the grief course. And then, you know, next in the course, the other two things are we say, okay, well now, given that you know who you are and you're starting to understand who you are, well, what do you take control of? What can you control? You can't bring your mother back. You can't, talking about your siblings, right? You can't compare yourself to your siblings. Just because they're not seemingly grieving doesn't mean that they're not grieving. It means that they're probably not processing it all, and it will come back to haunt them later. Your responsibility is to worry about you and your life and your happiness, because you are the one who's grieving right now. So I would say ignore them. Don't talk to them about your grief if they are not helpful. Find people who are helpful. Again, my Facebook group, helpful people there, people who get it there. Jumping into my course, helpful people there. And then controlling the things that you can control, right? After you've analyzed your life and you're like, okay, this isn't important to me, we'll stop doing it, right? Well, what is important to you? Well, this is, right? You figure out that something, it's really important to me to donate to a charity, or I love animals. I love crafts. I love being outside. I don't know what it is that you love, but you start finding what you love and you find your purpose in the things that bring you the most joy. And then I also suggest finding a way to help someone else, because if you've lost your mother, you probably were heavy into helping your mother, and it was a big component of your life, and suddenly not having anyone to take care of can leave you feeling like without meaning, without purpose. So the answer is to find new purpose, find someone else that you can help. But again, it should come from within. It should come from within. And then lastly, once you know more about yourself, you know more about your grief, and you're starting to take back control of the things that you can control, it's going to put you on a path to help you realize that you can create a life that's dramatically different than the one that you have, if that's what you want. You can create any type of life that you want. The hard part and this feeling worthless and feeling this sense of lack of purpose, it's because you don't know right now. You can't answer that question. And that's okay. That's okay. That's what the grief process is for you. We all have something that we need to come to terms with as part of our grief, the things that we need to process. For some people, they're riddled with guilt, and until they deal with their guilt, they're not going to be able to do anything else. For you, it's this sense of figuring out, how do I deal with my life? How do I find purpose? How do I find meaning? And why is what I'm experiencing so different from other people? All of these things are okay. All of these are things that are big, big topics that I love to help people with. This is my true passion. I have been doing it for 13 years. This is the journey that I have been on. And you guys didn't know me 13 years ago. But if you go back to my earliest videos, you will see how very different I am. And that is the grief process. That is the journey of grief. And what I want grief to do for you is to teach you who you are and to teach you what it is that you want and to become more of who you can be. And if you believe in God, who God wants you to be. And I think that that's something that your mother would be proud of. It's something that you can be proud of. And I think it's something that this world needs. We can all become better versions of ourselves. We can learn, we can grow, we can adapt, we can change. And by doing that, we're all going to be better off. So thank you so much for your question. I hope that helps. If you have additional questions on any of my videos or anything about the grief journey or the grief process, I want you to please keep sending them my way, because if you have a question, someone else has that same question. And as always, please continue to like and subscribe to this channel. If you have not subscribed, please do that, because YouTube looks at those statistics to help decide whether or not other people will find these videos valuable. So if you are finding these videos valuable and you haven't yet subscribed, I want to encourage you to do that. And if you want to know when all the videos are popping up, then you can hit that bell icon and you'll get notified. So that's what the bell is. Thank you so much for watching. Grief is a process, and I want to help. Together, we grieve better.